Hello, everyone. Hello, YouTubers. This is Anonymous T. Hope you're having an amazing day today. Today, I am reacting and reviewing Power Book 2, Ghost, Season 2, Episode 1, Free Will is Never Free. And I am so excited that this is back. I'm a few episodes behind, but I will be getting out these reviews as fast as I can, as soon as I finish binging on this. And I gotta say, this series, this spinoff, and probably Tommy spinoff, I already know are gonna be my two favorites as far as out of the spinoffs that have taken place. So the major storyline this season is going to be Jabari Reynolds' murder. Who did it, who's going to be set up at first, and how all of this is going to unfold, how all of this is going to play out. So it looks as though, they found his body fairly quickly, and I'm surprised that the lead detective we were introduced to, Kevin, they had mentioned, of course, since it was the detective that Kane killed, that it was his police-issued gun that killed Jabari, that they mentioned that he hasn't been at work and he's been missing for a week, but nobody has taken, point on investigating where this detective is. So I find that to be a little bit interesting, and that it sounds as though they're going to basically base this investigation maybe off of that being the catalyst of potentially finding him. But I just found it very odd that they have not found his body yet, or have not opened an official investigation of your employee who's been missing for a week and his gun turns up to kill somebody. So it already looks as though Kevin, who is a new character we were introduced to, that he has a previous relationship with Carrie, the other professor, in some capacity, and it seems as though he is already trying to set her up as being the prime suspect. She's up here thinking that they're going to go out on a date. She's up here calling, her sex therapist that, she's trying to cut things off with Zeke, the student, and she already cut things off with Jabari, but she's had a tryst in the past with this detective, and so she's trying to talk about how excited she is because she thinks something's gonna pop off, like, romantically with him. And then he kind of, pulls the wool off of her eyes, and they show up at the morgue for her to ID Jabari's body, and she was completely shook. And I don't understand why, they didn't contact an emergency contact or family or friends or somebody that immediately would have been able to, be close relation to Jabari. It was like it seemed like the detective has a thing that he wants to get back at Carrie, and it seems as though he is trying to set her up as the prime suspect of this murder, whether she did it or not. And even at the end of the episode, we see that, Kevin calls the number, obviously, that is going to link the murderer to, one of the last contacts of Jabari Reynolds, and Tariq doesn't say anything, but since he was on the phone long enough for you to hear him breathing, they ping the phone at campus, so it already sets up for all things to point back to Carrie, to be set up as the murderer, since in fact they do know that the murderer obviously is somebody on campus, whether it is a student or whether it is a professor or faculty or somebody affiliated with the university. So more to come on that. We were introduced to a new character also named Mecca, who's going to potentially be a new connect, a new person that Kane's going to be working with, because if you'll remember last season he was ousted from the family from all of the shenanigans and things that had just kind of caught up to where the family doesn't want anything to do with him. I was kind of surprised that they kind of just dropped Mecca on us, but I know nothing about him at all. He seems charismatic. He seems like he's going to be a good character that is going to be very prominent this season, but I wish we just had some sort of backstory. And later in the episode, he tests Kane to see, what type of person he is, if he's going to kill this guy that is sitting in a chair, if he's going to kill him or if he's going to beat him up, or what's going to be, the turnaround on that, so he can kind of gauge what he's dealing with. And so essentially it looks as though Kane initially is getting beat up by the guy, because he doesn't shoot him, and then eventually Kane, fires back, and then basically like twists his head and kills him and everything else. And so where they were at, it kind of looked like it was a bunch of different cars and jets and different, small planes and that sort of thing. And Kane saw all of this cocaine. I thought he was about to steal it or test to see how good the coke was. And Mecca just caught him red-handed. And I don't know how Kane got out of that, because he should have been killed for the way he was being so obviously sneaky. But basically Kane told him that he needs somebody that's going to move Mecca's product. So basically Kane is saying he's going to be useful. However, I feel like Mecca knows more about the Tejada family than what he is letting on, because he was following Kane at the end of the episode when Kane was at Monet's trying to, talk to her, trying to come to some sort of reason of a potential new client they can work with to sell product and everything else. And she changed the locks. She is not listening to him. She is not featuring him. And then it shows Mecca on the opposite side of the street, basically, watching everything go down and seeing what's taking place. So I'm wondering what his role to the family is going to be and who he is and what he knows. So that will be interesting as things unfold. Then we get into Zeke, of course. He is still, doing some rehabbing, and, potentially the guy that he's working out with is talking to him about potentially, entering the NBA draft and turning pro. And Zeke's basically trying to say, hey, like, I don't even have that much experience yet. My playing time is shot. I'm still trying to get myself back to the way that I used to be, and this and that. So he's on the fence on that. However, it looks as though, Monet is again making rash decisions for the family without consulting them, which is going to backfire, which is going to have them rebel, because she is now telling her kids, Drew and Diana, that she wants to push for Zeke to go pro, and that, basically they can all work for him, but it'll basically be a way for them to be in a new city wherever Zeke, whatever NBA team Zeke plays for, they can basically, pretend that they're working for him as his manager or whatever, but really it's going to be a cover to still move product at whatever the new location is. They just simply want to get out of where they're at now because there's too much heat with all this stuff going on, and they don't want, anything coming back to them as a potential issue. So next we get into Brayden and Tariq, and I am hoping that I'm hoping this is his season where he can really shine and we can get a lot more information and a lot more backstory on Brayden. And, it seemed at the beginning of the episode that Tariq was a little hesitant to continue, their business of selling drugs and everything else, that he was on the fence and wanted things to be cool for a while. But then, of course, later in the episode, Monet, invites him over to dinner because obviously she thinks that's going to be the best way to question him about this professor's murder. However, it didn't work out in her favor because Tariq was put in an impossible situation where there was no way he could technically admit that he knew any details about that, murder, even though Drew and Diana were looking at him and, saw that he obviously knew something, but the approach that Monet took was not the right one in order to obtain the answers that she is looking for. But instead, she also provided him with a whole lot of product to move and put them in designer bags, put them in Fendi bags and everything else, so that essentially it can look like he just went on a big shopping spree and nobody would suspect that there's actually drugs in there. So it seems as though, Brayden's really trying to take Tariq under his wing, trying to get him more involved with his family. His family seems very prominent was a part of some fraternities, was a part of some secret societies, and one in particular called the Lodge that has like all types of, things that are kept under wraps and this and that. And they also had a congressman over who, again, was just ignorant. And him and Tariq got into a discussion about, the opioid crisis versus selling drugs in the black community. They talked about Ghost, his father, and they just like went through a whole list of topics in a short period of time. And I gotta say, Tariq held his own against the guy, because he basically was coming from a place of, obviously privilege and a lot of stereotypes and a lot of negativity. But Tariq really did a good job of holding his own and setting him straight. And then they invited Tariq to go out and go hunting and, shoot different animals, shoot deer and everything else. And so a weird moment had happened where they had fired the first shot at the buck. And then the congressman made another shot, but it looked like it was very close in proximity of potentially hitting Tariq, because Tariq was so freaking shook that he just like took off running, from out where they were, from his hideout where him and Braden were. And then he ended up to where the buck was shot. And, everybody came back over, including Braden, asking him, does he want to take the kill shot? They want to make it up to him and this and that. But Tariq was so shook because he was having a flashback to all of his other murders and other things that he's been involved in, such as the professor, such as Ghost. And it was just like life flashing before his eyes. And, he was in another world. So Braden ended up, taking the kill shot because he never gets that opportunity. So it seems as though Braden and his family might be an integral part of this season that we're going to see more of. So I am excited of that. Also, for some reason, even though Carrie claims she does not want to continue a relationship with Zeke, he shows up to her place to console her because of, on hearing the news about Jabari being murdered. And so then they end up sleeping together. It looks like, we're going to see in the coming episodes, based off of the list of students who are being investigated and questioned about the murder that took place at the basketball game where the guy got shot got killed and pushed into the pool and everything else, that whoever is on that particular list of people of interest is likely the killer, is what the detectives are deducing from that. So essentially Zeke is there, I guess, to offer Carrie some sympathy sex. I don't know. But it was just like funny because earlier in the episode she was like doing all this talking like she was done, but she easily slips into, these old habits. So also, some ancillary storylines that are taking place is, I guess, some updates to Tasha since she's in witness protection. There seems to be an issue with Tasha's mom and her drinking, and Yaz, as a result, was like burning breakfast and burning this bacon that like set off the smoke detector, set the stove on fire, the pan on fire, whatever that was cooking the bacon. And their grandmother just seemed completely out of it, completely zoned out. Tariq's up here lying about his alibi, saying he got in at 8 o'clock last night because his grandma is like completely out of it and hung over. So she doesn't really know when he got in. And he essentially wants to get in contact with his mom to see, what to do about since he's away at college full time. So to make sure somebody is there to take care of her. And so he calls Method Man, who is at Soledad O'Brien's show on set of that with Sax, about if he can get in contact with his mom. And he's like, your mom's in WITSEC. Like, what do you mean get in contact with her? So, but basically he told Sax that, basically since they are in private practice now, they can charge whatever they want. And they can basically, pretend that they're looking for his mom, but, ultimately say they can't find her, but end up charging Tariq a lot of money anyways, just to charge him. So, and then it looks like now since, Method Man had convinced Sax to, be a part of his private practice, that now he wants him to look the part. Now he wants him in fancy designer suits, because he said that that's going to have you look successful and look the part. Also, we got introduced to Redman, which I thought was cool. So he plays Method Man's brother on the show, and he's currently locked up. And he basically tells him that he is using sex to help him get out of jail eventually. And that's going to be the angle that he is utilizing sex, which is probably one of many angles he is utilizing him for. Also, it seems that we are also still in the midst of this love triangle. One with Diana and, Tariq, as well as Tariq and Lauren. So as far as Diana and Tariq, it was funny because even just a little handhold, it got Monet on alert. She is always at the wrong place at the wrong time whenever things are about to get spicy between Tariq and Diana. And it's like, I feel like she's playing the younger version of Tasha, and Lauren is playing the younger version of Angela, is how I kind of foresee this going, where Angela is the one who's completely unaware of Tariq's life and is completely oblivious. And then Diana is aware of Tariq's actual life. However, he still wants to, be considered a good person, a good upstanding person, like his father was trying to do, for several years. And then ultimately, as the end, finally making that transition into politics. So it seems like they're kind of going in that direction, because even in the scene with Lauren where she is like completely shook, she's crying her eyes out, she goes to Tariq's to, get some, consoling and everything else, and she's just shocked because he has a stoic reaction. And Tariq is like, listen, I've lost so many family and close friends and godparents and everything else. Like, I have no emotions left to cry over a professor. And so then, like, Lauren starts kissing on him and this and that. But of course, he's interrupted by none other than Kane, who is now freaking out now that word is out that Jabari Reynolds' murder is hitting the airwaves, because he didn't think that there was going to be this much focus on him. But Tariq was trying to explain, like, hey, he's a prominent professor, so this obviously is going to make the news. And he's like, well, as long as, my name's not in this, we should be good. But so I don't know how it's going to come out, but I don't know. I don't trust Kane as far as I can throw him. And I don't know how, Monet or her kids are going to find out. So I am going to be staying tuned for that as well. Some of the ancillary stuff that is going on. So we see Tate. So I think he's going to have like a prominent role as well. Because I think he was originally supposed to have a spinoff, but I remember Lawrence Tate doing a recent interview that was saying that, the public has to kind of get reintroduced to him and to start liking him again. So I don't know if that spinoff is still happening or not, but essentially he is back. His brother was back. His real life brother is back. And so at the beginning, it shows Tate essentially, down on his luck in sweatpants, basically having his brother's place look like a pigsty, because he's down on his luck. He's down on everything that's happened with him politically. And so then his brother basically tells him, like, hey, you need to get it together. You're not going to be staying here and, trashing my house, essentially. So Tate comes up with the plan to figure out a way that he can get his name back out there and get himself a more prominent position in the Democratic Party, in politics, with a particular district that Sweeney is running a re-election campaign for. So Tate shows up, I believe he's the DNC chair's house, and tells them essentially his plan that he wants to unseat Sweeney, who's running again. And basically, the DNC guy is telling him, hey, like, good luck with that, unless you can bring me some concrete proof that he is doing wrong, that he is doing something inappropriate. I can't help you. Be happy with your little city council position and keep it moving. So from there, Tate basically, goes back, cleans up his brother's house, starts looking for, some potential strategies and things to put together on how he is going to try to unseat and beat this McSweeney guy that is running again. And he also secured himself an apartment so that he is out of his brother's hair. And so when his brother got back, he asked him to basically take him into the police database so he can try to look up what skeletons and what things that he can use against this politician so that he can basically be the one to take his role, unseat him from his position with whatever scandal he uncovers for this political guy. So that essentially was the episode. That was the main things that happened. A couple of other things that happened where there was a couple of random times at Monet's house where she heard like random noises, and she like would get out her gun because she thought that it was like somebody trying to do something. So the first time it looked as though Drew had dropped something, because they really didn't explain what happened to Drew, and then he just kind of appeared in the cast. And so it basically presuming that he obviously, you know, survived the shooting and all of that, but he has some resentment now to his mom. He blames his mom for him being shot. He also has some, you know, he's not dealing and not coping well with his injuries because he's supposed to be like, you know, changing his bandages every few hours. And he ended up either he bought something or somebody gifted him his art supplies. So he's up here trying to practice, and it looks like his drawing hand is the hand that he got shot, the arm that he got shot of. So he's up here trying to practice, you know, doing some artwork, doing some things, doing some stenciling. And since it obviously is not working, since not all of the feeling and circulation is working right, he basically just throws all of his, you know, utensils on the floor. And so then the second time that Monet hears something, at that point, it is Kane trying to get back into the house since he is locked out. So that essentially is everything that took place. And then I think the only other thing was Diane had got pulled over. Well, not pulled over. The cops asked her to move, but essentially where she was parked while her mom was like out and about and they were like doing this shopping spree, she said she essentially, you know, flirted with that police officer and, you know, made him think he quote unquote was going to get it. And then he gave her basically his card for her to call him. So she ended up not having to move the vehicle. So that was on that. But that was all that took place. Let me know your thoughts. Again, I am not spoiled yet. This is specifically to just discuss the very first episode of season 2. And like I said, as I get through the subsequent episodes, I will react and I will review to those as well. Please let me know your thoughts. Those of you, if it's your first time viewing my channel, welcome. Please check out my playlist. Please check out other videos that I have reviewed and reacted to and have discussed on my page. Those of you who've been back multiple times, thank you so much. I am grateful. I am thankful. I am appreciative of each and every single one of you. I love interacting with you guys in the comments. I read all of your comments and try to respond or try to like your comments as I go through. And I am just grateful for the support and grateful, you know, how much we're growing in a short period of time. It is very wonderful. You guys are awesome. Also, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you're notified the moment that I post new content on my page. And per usual, I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a happy rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys later.